On Second Shot, we tackle 2 new headlines every week to find out what kind of wisdom the world is dishing out today. And we want you to be a part of that. When you see a headline you want to take a second shot at, or if you're looking for advice, or just want to tell us what you think of the show, email us at secondshotcast@gmail.com. If you like what you hear, rate us on iTunes. This helps us move up in the ratings so more people will see us. And if you want to hear more, subscribe to the show so that the new episodes will get straight to you every single Friday. We love you. Thanks for listening and enjoy.
Heath Oaks is a millennial mogul whose ignorance on fire led him to fail his way to success. Jenny Anchondo is an Emmy Award-winning journalist whose sharp eye and biting wit have led to her storied career in television. Together, they tackle today's headlines in a way only an odd couple with a dash of perfect opposite can. So kick back, relax, and join the conversation. This is Second Shot with your hosts, Heath and Jenny.
You know it's a really special day when my wife comes in wearing a t-shirt and jeans. Like, the rareness of this. Everybody go online and look. Like, Jenny does not wear, like the most agonizing thing to her is to have to think when somebody says be casual.
I don't even know what to do.
She hates being casual. We got Jenny, Matt, and Zach in the studio, and we got a special guest today as well.
That's right. Don't take me to a baseball game. Don't invite me to a
hates
pub.
having to wear casual.
At least it's a branded shirt.
I know. Yeah. Well, yeah, so I'm wearing the Second Shot t-shirt, but I know how to dress up. I know how to go to a gala. I know how to do black tie. I know how to do cocktail. I know how to do work. And I know how to do yoga pants. Like anything between, I just don't understand.
Blue jeans are the death of you.
But Brighton and I had science class this morning, our little girl, and she often gets dirt and paint and everything all over me. So I figured, like, if my jeans had paint on them, they would be more edgy for our guest, who has a very edgy look.
Uh-oh.
So welcome, Michael Molthan.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you guys.
So we told our listeners that we were kind of flipping the script a little bit, having a few more guests on, some super, specific hand-selected people. So I'm going to tell you, I've got a little bio for him, and it's always awkward for people to talk about you in front of you, but I'm going to go ahead and do that, Michael. So he was a luxury home builder, really, you guys, like one of the best in the country. I was reading the reviews online last night, actually. He was a husband, a father to the outside world, really considered to be a massive, massive success. So it was an addiction to drugs and alcohol that essentially caused his life to crumble, ended up losing that business, his relationship with many of his family members, his marriage, and eventually his freedom. So we're talking about a man who was arrested 27 times and spent almost 4 years in prison. So he's here to talk about really his spiritual awakening that changed his life, because today, and many of you know this, you're probably fans of his show. He hosts the show M to the Rock, where he openly discusses addiction. He's also a highly sought after public speaker on this topic. And now we officially welcome Michael Molthan to the show.
Wow, that felt good.
Like your whole life story?
Yeah, that felt good. I don't know what else to say. So
listen, and we were speaking about this earlier. You were in a situation where you were essentially getting in your own way. So I want to know when you got serious about actually changing your life.
When the pain just got bad enough, I kept hitting what's called rock bottom. And every time I would hit rock bottom, it was the exact same rock that I kept hitting. And for the first time, I realized that the rock at the bottom, all these times that I was hitting rock bottom, was God. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to stay at the bottom the last time and hang out with God and get to understand, why am I doing the things I'm doing? And I got to first, preface that alcoholism, drug addiction is a disease. It's a disease of the mind, and it's my mind trying to fix my own mind of trying to figure out why I do the things I do. We aren't bad people. We're sick people trying to get well. And I truly, the last time I surrendered, and I surrendered and I said, I don't care where the justice system takes me. I don't care where life takes me, God. I'm just tired of feeling the way that I do. And that on 7/7/17, I turned my life over to the Lord, and it hasn't been the same since.
I want to go back some, Michael, to a lot of our listeners are in, business world, trying to strive for success, or some of them are at that success. And one of the things about, as Jenny was talking about going back and looking, you were one of the biggest luxury home builders in Dallas. I mean, at the height of your business, what was that like? What type of, how much in houses were you doing a year? How big had your business getting? And then, like, how does it, when you get there, what is that shift that kind of changes that it starts going in that opposite direction? And what are some of the things that maybe our listeners can have, that if they're maybe climbing that ladder, climbing that success, some things to be careful, watchful of, fearful of, to where that doesn't go bad for them?
It's a good question. My addiction, my drug of choice was alcohol and drugs. When I tried to remove alcohol and drugs from my life, I cross-addicted, and work became my drug. Chasing the almighty dollar, became my drug. My competitors in the high-end luxury market were, a great year, they were doing maybe 2 houses a year. I was doing 15.
Yeah,
I was doing almost 1 a month. And that's what drove me.
And what were the average price of these homes?
We were $2 million and up.
Oh, wow.
And the market was good. So market was good.
Babe, we really messed up by not having him build our house that we've been building for 3 years.
Uh-oh.
Side note.
Yeah.
But
1 a month. Yes.
Well, you call my brother. My brother is an incredible builder in the Park Cities. But so that became my drug of choice, and my life became completely unmanageable as a result of that too. So I didn't know what balance was. I had one speed, and it was go, and I was addicted to anything that was going to change the way that I felt, because I couldn't get along with myself and be that way. I'm grateful so much that I am a drug addict and alcoholic in recovery, because today I have a program of recovery. I have solutions today for the way I feel, right?
So what was it? Okay, so thinking about you're building this business. I imagine that you had to have been sober at some point in order to really get it built up. What flipped the switch? When did you start sort of getting more into your addiction?
What flipped the switch was when I started becoming powerless over people, places, and things. There wasn't enough alcohol and drugs to remove fear, anxiety. My white lies with my family members were catching up with me. And so I was being exposed. And the more I was being exposed in what was the truth, the angrier I became. And in my disease, resentment is the number one offender. It will kill me. So that's where it really started going downhill. I started holding on to horrible resentments towards people, family members, institutions, banks, and all that. And I was saying, I'll get you. And what happened was I was literally drinking the poison, hoping that other people would die. And I just started going downward spiral, holding on to the sword.
So when you look back, do you think that you basically were going maybe from one addiction to another whenever, you had an addiction to success at one point, and then when that kind of started tapering off, you went, okay, drugs and alcohol, maybe feel the rest. I mean, and I think that a lot of people that are driven, and you obviously are an innate driven person, right, have those issues that go from one to the other, and some of them, drugs and alcohol never get there, but they're in a financial ruin, or they're trying to keep up a lifestyle that they really don't have because they can't stop that. What do you think? Is there anything that you could give people that maybe in the future,
stop them in their tracks?
To stop them from their tracks, if they're starting to go down that path of ego or anything that can help?
Well said. I work a 12-step program, and the first step is we admitted that we are powerless over alcohol or drugs, that our life has become unmanageable. That is the only time in the 12 steps that the word alcohol or drugs is ever mentioned. So you take that word alcohol out and make it a blank, all right? You fill that blank in with something where we get honest. That's step one, is we get honest. You fill that blank in with gambling, pornography, work, exercise, food, all the different things that we do. I call it the visible things to make the invisible problems go away. And once we recognize that and get honest of what is actually making my life unmanageable, I'm powerless over. Okay, for example, I was powerless over work and ego and pride, because I would lie to my family and say, listen, I can't come home tonight because I need to go to a business meeting, because I couldn't I wanted to go get another deal. I wanted to go get another real estate deal. Heath would call me up and say, hey, I got something that just came across my desk. You need to look at this deal. And I would lie to my family and say, listen, I got to go do this business deal at the Stars game with this guy. And it'd be about real estate and alcohol and stuff like that. I'm using it as an example, but that's that delusional thinking, as opposed there was no balance. Work became my God. Drugs became my God. alcohol became my God, and it all failed me.
Now, let me ask you this real quick, because here's what's interesting. The 12-step thing, right, the 12-step program, I never thought about it and I think most people would think of that, if you have a drug or alcohol addiction, get 12 steps. So what you're saying is you can fill in that blank with anything. So if somebody's got an addiction with food or addiction with not being able to balance their life healthy between work and home, you're saying that you believe the 12-step program may be able to help them.
I know it does. So, you can take that blank. So if we wanted to role play here, and let's say that I'm a codependent, I can say, I have admitted that I'm powerless over Jenny, that my life has become unmanageable. People with codependency. I admitted that I'm powerless over my job, that my life has become unmanageable. That's all I do. I'm powerless over it. I go, okay, it's Saturday. I'm going to spend time with my family, and I get up in the morning and I go straight to the office because I got to get prepared for the week. And I'm powerless over it. Why am I at the office? Why can't I be with my family today? And I'm sitting there and I start feeling guilt, shame, and remorse. So what do? I work more to make that go away. Same thing with alcohol and drugs. I get these feelings, so I do more to make that feeling go away. So yes, the 12 steps is a way of life for me.
I love that message, and we spoke about it. I went through the 12 steps as well, and it's just life changing on so many levels. Let's talk about when I hear you say, okay, 2017. A lot of people come and they tell their redemption story like 10 years later, 20 years later, they're like 30 years later. But what I want to impress upon everybody is that 2 years ago, life was unmanageable and you were incarcerated. Here you are today with your show, speaking, impacting lives, happy, newly engaged. I mean, all this stuff. So, what are your tips and tricks to really turning your life around in such a short amount of time?
It's such a good question. And I think about this every day. What y'all are seeing in the life of M2 The Rock is not designed. It's all God. I didn't sit down and just put this master business plan together on how I was going to spread the message.
But you had to show up and ask for it, right?
I did. I was apprehended by the Dallas Police Department on 5/29/17. That was the last day I had alcohol or drugs put in my body, cigarettes, anything in my body. If they would have let me out on 5/30, Jenny, I would have used again. But it was on 7/7/17 when I surrendered, when I was incarcerated, and I was set free for the first time in my life behind the walls. I found my freedom in jail. And once that happened and I surrendered, then God started using me. And I started helping people. And I'm not talking preaching the gospel and all this stuff, which I'm a big believer in, but I was just doing me. And people were attracted to that behind the walls. And then I started speaking in jail. After dinner, after evening chow, I would get up on the ramp and share. And people were gathered to that. The guards would listen. And it got back to the judge. Well, I was miraculously released from prison. And left, and I was on the Brian Glenn show, and iHeart picked it up, and then here I am today. So I've just been following my feet.
I want to stop for just a second and rewind to you, because this is so applicable for everybody, whether they're in jail or out trying to build their business. You were just doing you, and people were attracted to that. So it was almost like you found your authenticity. That's what people love so much, is when they see somebody really like nailing it in their craft. And at the time, that was your craft.
That's a good point, because I had that when I was in the business world. People wanted to hang out with Michael, but I was miserable. I hated myself. I had a void. I filled that void with drugs, alcohol, work, and all the other stuff, right? Today, that character defect of mine is now my asset, and people see and they feel the spirit, being around me. And that's how I stay clean and sober today, is giving that away. Being me, being transparent, being honest, letting you and Heath know it's okay to say I'm scared. It's okay to say I'm in fear. It's okay to say I'm anxious. It's okay to say these things, because that's how we recover. We got to let the walls down and let some people into our life.
What's interesting is your last day that you were arrested will be a date that I will never forget either, because that was the day that our daughter was born, 5/29/17.
Oh my gosh.
How crazy is that?
That is awesome.
So-
Like, we
Was
know
it
exactly what we were
rebirth?
doing the day
Yeah.
you were getting arrested.
so is her name Freedom?
Yeah. Sort of. It's Brighton.
There you go, Brighton. What a
Yeah.
pretty
We were
name.
down at Baylor.
But how
well, mostly
interesting
just
is
at
that?
our
Wow.
house.
Is that not
but yeah.
crazy to think
It's
of? I mean,
crazy.
5/29/17.
When he says I was think May, I don't think 5/29, so
Yeah.
it didn't actually register
so
with me
on
until
May
you said that.
29, 2017, it was a very dramatic, very dark day. And that day ended up being the best day of my life, just like it is y'all.
Yeah, absolutely.
God's weird.
Yeah.
God is weird. He just uses things that don't connect and makes them connectable. And
Yeah.
that's what's so neat.
So we talk about the 12-step meeting, and for me, the first time I ever went to one was actually as a journalist covering a story, and you had to go through a lot because, of course, there's privacy, right?
Right.
And that's typically not allowed. I mean, I had built up a trust with them.
Good for you.
For years. And so we were able to do some very subtle coverage of that. Then later, I went as a participant in the program, and I will never forget thinking, I'm a relatively confident person, and this is like one of the scariest things I've ever done is step into that meeting. So can you give some insight into if someone's thinking about whether it's Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters, any of the groups, like explain what it's like, explain sort of what that process is like when they go to a meeting.
Well, I will. When I walked into a recovery group meeting, I don't fly a flag. I don't represent any group, but a 12-step recovery meeting, psychotherapy, group therapy fellowship. I walk in there, and the reason why I'm in so much fear to go in there, and to be honest, for the first time in my life, when I'm feeling that is the disease active in my head. That is the disease telling me, or the enemy saying, you don't need to be in here. You're not like these people. You need to go away. And a lot of times, my whole life, I would listen to that. I would go away. But we go in there, and for 1 hour, just sit down and listen for the similarities, not the differences. What does that look like? I used to go in 2000. I'd go in all pimped out, thinking all ego, pride, big home builder, and I would hear guys going, I lost my wife, I've been arrested, I've been homeless, and I go, man, I'm not going to come here. That's not who I am, okay? That's not who I am yet.
Yeah.
And that's the key right there. So go in and listen for the similarities, not the differences. The great thing about recovery group meetings, Jenny, is that I get to hear and see my character defects live on stage. I also get to hear solutions to my character defects live on stage, because my solutions when I'm in my disease are bizarre. I'll get a splinter in my pinky toe, Heath, and to remove the splinter, I cut both my legs off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And today I don't think that way.
So if somebody is listening to the show, maybe they've got a spouse, a partner, maybe they've got a friend or a family member that they see going down a destructive path of some way, whether it's drugs, alcohol, maybe it's balance in life, maybe it's their priorities and how off whack they are. What's the best way to approach somebody to make them be okay to go get help or doing that? Because I from what I know, that's a very sensitive thing of how you can approach that to whether it lands on them or not.
Well, very common asked question, and there is an answer, and there is the correct answer. So let's just use alcoholism as an example for this topic, okay? If you have a husband that is struggling with alcoholism and you can't relate to it, all right, and it's killing you watching this happen, this is the solution. Write this down. Go find another man that is a recovering alcoholic and introduce him to your husband. And leave the room, okay? One alcoholic working with another, there's no other better solution, all right? Men work with men, women work with women. So we find the like-minded people that can relate. I'm engaged to a lady who's in recovery too. So if a female is struggling, I will introduce this lady to Rachel, or I'll introduce her to a lady in the program where they can relate. That happens every day. And that is I've seen miracles happen that way, because when a normal person, call them a normie, tries to fix the alcoholic, we drink more.
Gotcha.
We have a language, and that's the most powerful thing you can do.
So if it's any particular drug, maybe it's an eating disorder, maybe it's a balance disorder, one of the biggest things is to set up that male or female that's that's overcome it, and introduce them in their life and just wait and watch.
Let's get honest first, and let's accept that we have a disease. And once we accept we have a disease and get some time on our shelf, then we'll talk about God. Then we'll get into all that. So many people immediately would come to me and shame me, saying, you're a sinner, you're a bad person. That's what I would hear.
Yeah.
And I would flee because I'm like, I'm not. I don't know why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Let's address that we have a problem, we have a disease, and there is a solution.
Love it. Are we ready to do an article with him in a little bit?
Well, we are, but I thought we were going to get to. Didn't you want to get in that one last piece that you were wanting to see if we had?
Yes. Do we have time for it? I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't see the clock. Where is it?
Oh, it's over here. Watch out.
I got it.
I know.
I
things are
got
all
you.
over
My
the place in here.
goodness. Okay, you know I'm so the scheduler. I'm like over here hyperventilating. Like I need to know every 5 seconds where we are. I'm looking at my computer. I didn't start a clock here. I didn't start a clock here.
So awesome.
Okay, so I want to talk about. So congratulations on the recent engagement, by the way.
Thank you.
So let's talk about. Finding a healthy relationship. This is something else that we've discussed sort of offline, and I thought this is a great component for the discussion that I want our audience to hear about finding a healthy relationship.
This is huge. Relationships are probably one of the number one reasons for relapses in early recovery, and for me, my accountability partner, my sponsor, my little team around me, including my judge, said, Michael, no relationships. And I get that today. And the new me is I didn't want a relationship. And I was told that I couldn't get in a relationship for a year and until I finished all 12 steps, which was fine to me. I accepted that. I wasn't looking for a relationship because before I always was. I was looking for something to fill that void, right? So I was going this, and I realized I can't be in a relationship and love anyone until I know who I am.
Yeah.
I got nothing to give except just a bunch of resentment. Hey, Miss Girlfriend, do you want to hang out with me and just co-sign on my resentment?
Well, and then and you think about who you're attracting too. I mean, like
Right, yeah.
like the people we're bringing into our lives.
Yeah, I was seeking
we want
sick
them
people.
to be whole,
Right.
like we are whole.
Right.
And to support that.
That's right. And so, now I got something to give. As a man, I truly believe the man being the spiritual leader of the household. Research that has nothing to do with control, but the spiritual leader of the household. And for me to be that, I've got to love God first before I can love anybody else. That's what works for me. That's what was taught to me, and I get that today. It makes sense to me because my whole way didn't work. I was horrible at relationships.
How do you? Okay, so what is life like now? Do you still go to groups, meetings? Does she go to?
Yeah. So I'm the type of alcoholic and drug addict that I attend support group meetings every day. Every day. That's my program. I have to. Because I love it. It feeds me. She does too. She's a national recording artist, tours all over the world, performing, and she has a support group that is out there, and then social media. We're members of some private groups on social media that we can, talk back and forth, and it's great. There's some great things on social media that can do that. So we stay connected with our people.
Well, one of the things that I can take from this whole deal is, number one, that the level of success you were at until you actually dealt with the actual addiction issues that you had, that you knew about, you just kept going from one to the other. The level of success you were going to achieve in your life wasn't going to really happen. It may have looked like it, right?
Yeah.
And then I see that the 12-step program, to me, I never realized that was actually something outside of drugs and alcohol. I never thought about that, but you're right.
Babe,
because,
I told you I did that.
Well, no. I guess
other
no.
things,
I'm not
right.
talking about. I'm talking more so like if I'm somebody that goes, I'm out
Codependency
of balance.
and
Yeah.
such, yeah.
I didn't think about it like in that
No,
route. And
this is
that
good what you're saying.
Yeah,
This is real
I never
good.
thought about that. So that's really huge to me, and the redemption story of so quickly turning that around, and that a lot of people I know feel like they're stuck somewhere and feel like I'll never be able to come back from this, right? And then
How
how
old are
quickly
you?
did it.
I just turned 50.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. I just
Okay,
turned
so you
50.
guys at 48, he was in jail. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's got to be the message for people.
Yes,
to
I
your
agree.
point. I mean, because I think that too. I think, oh my gosh, like what have I? Okay, well, I did this one thing for 15 years,
At
and now what
42,
do I do?
I got my
And,
first arrest.
So
At
you were a
42.
late bloomer.
Yeah,
there.
42. 42 is when I got into the dark side, for me. And for your listener, if you're sitting there and you're working and and you appear to be successful, and everybody's saying, "Man, you're just doing so great, Heath. I mean, look at you. You're doing it." But when you literally get alone and you're alone and you're miserable and you really feel like you're in prison, the 12 steps will help you with that. And that's the great thing about it. The 12 steps is for everyone.
I love that message, and I think that actually is going to be really huge. And I'm excited about getting you on a little traditional second shot action, which we'll be back in a minute on the second segment and throw you a little.
He timed it up perfectly.
A little perfectly of it.
He makes up words, she translates them. Heath and Jenny host more of Second Shot, coming up on RNCN.
To all of my friends in the great state of Texas, if you have not taken advantage, I have a way to save you a ton of money. I have saved over about $3,000 in the last year, and I have no hassle. Go to energyogre.com, put in the promo code SECONDSHOT. Now listen, promo code SECONDSHOT, and you're going to get a free month just for signing up and saving a ton of money. So don't be crazy. Stop sitting around talking about, is this the real deal, and go do it right now. energyogre.com, promo code SECONDSHOT, and a free month. Thanks. Go get it now. Run.
Ready? Aim. Fire. Second Shot is back for another round on RNCN.
So for all the listeners that know me, they know that I love, adrenaline racing and stuff. So like when Michael came in, we started talking. He and his son used to do a lot of motocross together. Ooh. That's what I did growing up, and talking about Swan out in Tyler.
Yes.
And then all of the type of racing was a, I was, my dad said at 18 months old, I got on my first real four-wheeler, and actually was driving it at 18 months old. And
that's a parenting problem.
That's horrifying is what that is.
And so anything that with an engine going fast was my deal, and I loved it. And that's why I'm telling you got to get out there to that Dallas karting complex.
We're going to do it. Let's go.
You guys, Dallas, Dallas Karting Complex needs to be a sponsor, by the way. I've had
really
so many people DM me after Heath's talked
Really?
about the
Let's
karting
do it.
complex.
Awesome.
Be like, yes.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll go live from there. Get us out there. Get
Yes.
Heath out there. We'll do a whole live race. Heath and M2.
Yes.
And I'm going to take you in the corner
Come
hard.
on, let's
I'm
go.
going to take you in the corner hard.
I've already got Brighton's really pink cart picked out with the pink suit, and it's going to be pretty.
That's awesome.
Her mama may not be on
That's
board
awesome.
with
This
it
is
yet,
not
but
happening.
She'll
This
have
is
to
why I
work.
had to stop working weekends. Like, I needed to come home and regulate.
We'll just tell Jenny to work the steps and call her sponsor and give it to God.
exactly. Zach, what you got?
So, Tiger Woods' ex-caddy Steve Williams praises pure guts it took for his amazing Masters win just the other week. Tiger Woods' former caddy Steve Williams have a lot of history between them. Williams was carrying Tiger's bag during his dominant ways in the 2000s, all the way up to 2011 when Tiger Woods parted ways with him. So ESPN had to ask after his Masters win just the last weekend, what'd you think? You were his caddy for 11 years. How'd it go? And he said, given the fact that 2 years ago he stated he was unlikely to play competitive golf ever again, or seriously doubting it, there would have been a lot of truth to that. But for him to actually come back full cycle to win a major championship, it's just an incredible story. It's an amazing achievement of pure guts and hard work for him, and just a true indication of what he is made of. It proves again what an amazing athlete is. It's just an amazing achievement. Really cool stuff.
Now, the thing is, yes, everybody, we know the Masters is over 2 or 3 weeks ago by now, okay? Get it. This is an older one.
It's fine.
But it's still something worth talking about, and I think especially in this one. And my second shot on it is that he was down and out not too long ago and couldn't stand up without having something hurt every time he did anything, right? When his life come crashing down because his balance was out of whack, and all those things between his family and his work life and everything, right? And I look at it and go, that was just a couple years ago. Then he wins the Master, and when we talk about your story and what you've been through, I thought it was just kind of a perfect continuation of, that second shot of that. If you're in that really rough spot, or that, maybe you're in that really good spot, but you get home and you're miserable, and you know that you need help. But if you go get that help, then you're going to be exposed. So you're probably going to take a dive in your business, and how will you ever come back from it, right? When you look at people like Tiger Woods 2 years ago, couldn't even get on a golf course because he was hurt every time, to now winning the Masters, right? To you 2 years ago being arrested and then being where you are right now, like, I think giving that hope to people that, the journey is not that long back to redemption. The journey is going to be longer if you put it off, don't you think?
I do. And what if it's ironic, this story, talking about Brighton, your daughter, being born the day that I was arrested. Tiger Woods' very first practice round at Augusta, I was caddying for Lanny Watkins. That's part of my story y'all don't know about. I was a caddy on the Pro Golf Tour for 5 years.
Oh, wow. That's
when I got out of high
He's actually
school.
107 years old. You've had so many different lives you've lived.
People say, hey, listen, you got to hang out with them too, because it's like sitting on a park bench with Forrest Gump. Okay, but
I love that show.
So it was
Some
neat.
best
So
movies ever.
Stevie Williams was a friend of mine. He actually used to race dirt track, so it's neat to see. But the story is so incredible, because what I got from this story is to surrender, simplify my life, and focus on what my purpose is in life, and that's what he did. And I guess that's what he did. It's what I saw. I think it's a great story. I was actually did a story for ESPN, and they asked me about it. Am I surprised? Nothing surprises me today.
Yeah.
After my personal experience, what God's done in nothing surprises me. And it is. And, Michael Jordan quoted saying it's the greatest comeback in sports history. And I've been at the Masters 6 times. I've caddied there 6 times. I know what it takes to win there. I've been in the last group a couple of times, and this is the real deal. I mean, this wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is the former caddy that we're talking about, right?
Yes.
That stopped with
Stevie.
him. Okay, so my second shot on this is actually maybe totally different than you guys. Here's a guy who, it did not necessarily end well with them.
No, not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
But here he is congratulating him, and what freedom that is to be, and saying, hey, you know what? He did pretty well. What freedom that is for him. I think he's probably done some work on himself in terms of like, hey, yeah, you know what? He was my boss forever, and I probably missed a lot of weekends and had sacrificed a lot for him, and now, I don't work with him anymore. Instead of being bitter and home and like, I'm not going to watch him and I'm not going to support him. Like, what freedom to be able to be like, you know what? That was great. Yeah, bravo to him. That's such great freedom for all of us to be able to look at people we've worked with or had relationships with and just cheer them on. Like, good, go, do you.
I love that second shot. When you think about that, giving, that the real power is when you can release other people's power over you and be happy for others versus holding resentment. When you think.
Yeah, and what I like about this is the way, like you said, he finds his purpose. Tiger Woods has had a real bumpy road. I know he's won a lot, and in the public eye, I think that's what people see, but Tiger Woods was a big fan of his dad. Tiger Woods' dad was a Navy SEAL, and he always wanted to be one. There were a few years Tiger Woods was flying out to California to train with Navy SEALs when he wasn't playing golf. And everybody around him was like, what are you doing? You're jumping out of helicopters? You're the best golfer in the world. Like, get back on the green. And it beat him up. He had back surgeries and knee surgeries because golf isn't a game that's made for human people. You hunch over a club for it. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody told him he couldn't do it. He wanted to find comfort in places he couldn't. And ultimately, he goes through all of that, and he comes back because he wasn't afraid to keep dreaming. At the end of it all, he said, you know what? I think I can still do this thing. I believe in myself. I believe in my ability. And here he is. It's crazy. It's a crazy ride.
That's why I love this show, because we all pulled something different from that same article, and I love hearing it vocalized. What everybody sees, as the message from this.
Well, what from your second shot that I like to think about is a lot of times you can be those you just had it out in a relationship, right? There was a close relationship, let's just say, like Tiger Woods and his caddy, and it got so nasty at the end, right? And you're thinking, we'll never be able to be. I will never be able to I will never, whatnot. And I think this is a true testament that time does heal things. And so, like, if you're in a spot where it's like maybe you've done a lot of wrong to family or you've done a lot of all these things and you're not feeling like the forgiveness come around, right? Like with them is, time does heal, because I guarantee you that caddy 7 years ago or so did not ever see himself being happy for Tiger Woods when, you know what I mean? But like, obviously,
Stevie,
you never know. Maybe you know.
Well, the facts is that Stevie stood up for what was right and says, I am not going to co-sign on your behavior.
Yeah.
And this was in the midst of all the divorce and all that. And that's who Stevie is. I mean, he stood up for what was right, and he says, I'm not going to do that. I can relate to that. I'm going through that personally right now. So, where do we got to take that stance and say, listen, we got to walk the walk and not talk it. So, it's a great story. That's as classy act, that Steve, made that comment, and that's who he is. That's who we are. And regarding the title Second Shot, the first thing that came to mind when I saw your show and heard about your show was one word: grace.
Yep, that's true.
The grace of God. It gives me He's given me a second shot at stuff that I don't deserve this. I do not deserve this. But, because I repented and because I surrendered, all right, I'm giving God permission to perform grace. I'm giving him permission to do that.
Don't you think that that's a lot of that holds a lot of people back in success in business and success fulfillment, is that they don't think they're deserving of those things?
And it's fear. It's a result of fear. Your listeners, there's a lot of successful business owners that listen to this show. A great business leader that's their gift, is showing grace to their employees. And as a leader, I challenge you: accept the grace. We're not God. Let God do his job and accept that grace. Accept that second shot. And so the great thing about our life today is that Jenny and I were talking about this on the phone the other day, is that I don't have bad days anymore. I have bad moments. Yeah. I don't have bad days.
So it doesn't ruin the whole day.
It doesn't, because I have a solution. I have 12 steps. I remember my second shot. I don't forget that when those jail doors open on Friday the 13th of October 13th of 2017, that was a complete mistake. It wasn't. God said, "Go do my work," and that's where we're at.
It's interesting. You told me, you said earlier, this is kind of going back to it, but it just stuck in my mind, was when you said you kept hitting rock bottom multiple times. And a lot of people always say, well, I haven't hit rock bottom yet, or whatnot. But what I think, would that been how you would have thought about it until you got clean to look back on it and realize you did hit rock bottom? It was just several times?
The very first time I hit rock bottom, okay, there's that rock.
Yeah.
The 27th time that I hit rock bottom, the same rock was there. Why do I keep hitting my head on this same rock, okay? What is this rock? I'm going to check and see. And all these times, the rock was God. And and the reason why it was just me and him is because I was so low in life that the only thing, and the pain was so bad, that the only thing that I could turn to was this God. And I said, I'm going to give it a shot, because I've done everything else.
Did you have a relationship with God prior to this at all, or any sort of sense or upbringing? Or
I was agnostic. I just knew that Jesus was there. It was the Word. He's going to operate on my terms. But I had not completely surrendered. I wasn't biblically sound. I wasn't, but the answer was no. Hey, Jesus, you can ride with me. So I could say that if I was in a group of guys like Heath and a bunch of guys and they're talking about Bible study, I'd yuck it up, say, yeah, I'm a believer. And then I'd be at the strip club, the next night with all the other guys, never talking about Christ. You know what I mean? So that was my life.
Okay, and I think that's really honest.
Yeah.
Which is, shoot, if anything, you're honest, and I appreciate that about you. I love that about you.
It's open, because my behaviors were symptoms. I was crying out for help. I was crying out for God. And the neat thing is, as a result of the 12 steps, I can literally sit here without saying it, but I'll say it, is I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not that guy I used to be. I sit here, I'll rewatch this show, and I'll go, I said that? I'm like, where'd that come from? Yeah. So
whenever, your show that is, I want you to talk a little bit about your show and get it to where our listeners, where they can find it all. Give them the idea. I'll tell you, listeners, what was pretty cool. A couple of weeks ago, you had Steve-O come in as a guest. Steve-O, that was pretty cool.
Heath sold.
Yeah, the Jackass was one of the. It was something that all of us wild adrenaline kids watched every moment of. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty interesting. But this time, maybe tell some of our listeners where they can find your show and kind of what they can expect from it. And yours is daily. See, ours only comes out once a week. Yours is daily.
Yeah, we're 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And then when I'm not on the show, I'm on other podcasts. I'm on radio across the country. It's real simple. And yeah, Steve-O, I got to give all the credit to Randy Smoot on that. Cynthia and Randy Smoot, helped me out so much. They are just so passionate about the movement of what we're doing, but they reach out and get these guests. And it's neat because it helps break the walls of stigma. This disease doesn't discriminate. And the difference between Steve-O and me and the man underneath the bridge is the bridge. That's it, know? And so, but our show is simple. We talk about drug addiction. We talk about alcoholism. We talk about hurts, habits, and hang-ups, things that get us stuck, where it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. Dude, I'm addicted to sin. You know, when my eyes are open, I'm in full-blown relapse.
Yeah.
Okay, but I got tools now that keep me on the beam, right?
Yeah.
And if I get off the beam, when I get off the beam, I know what it is, and I talk about it on the show. You know, if I'm going through something, you know, I share with people that if I think somebody's doing it to me, they're not. They're just doing it. You know, these new things that I'm learning. So that's what we talk about, solutions in life. And then we have guests on. And I love having guests on who are not drug addicts or alcoholics to get them to where they start nodding their head going, oh, okay, I get you now. You know, you are just like me. Just your solution is just freaking crazy.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. It's a feel-good show. We don't debate. We don't talk about big pharma. We don't talk about, you know, any controversy. I don't have that luxury. We don't talk about politics. We don't, you know, I talk about my God of my understanding. I have atheists that watch the show. I have atheists that participate. And the show has turned out to be a community. You know, we get crazy numbers on Facebook every week as far as views, you know, and we're reaching over, you know, 300,000 people a week. You know, a week on the show, and the success stories of people messaging us, asking for help. We get them treatment. You know, we point them in the right direction, and we have great success stories of the show is actually saving lives. Not my show, the show is saving lives.
Noon Central Time,
Yes.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday.
They can watch Facebook Live. They can also, if they miss it at noon, any podcast platform, right?
We're on every platform, and we're live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook Monday through Friday at noon.
You cannot miss him if you are online at noon.
That's right.
He's
It's everywhere. Yeah.
Well, it was a pleasure having you on. It was great to get to know you a little bit more ahead of time. Like, I've seen you a lot, and then obviously leading up, doing the research and looking at it. I mean, your homes were awesome, and knowing a lot more about you. And obviously, there's even that much more to uncover.
Yeah, we're trying to bring him back to build our home.
Racing.
Buy him out of this show and come finish our house.
I can help you. I can help you.
Give everybody your social media handles too, so they can follow you there.
Just the great thing to do is just go to our website, M2, the letter M, the number 2, therock.com. All of our links are there. Facebook, you know, just go to Facebook, go M2 The Rock. It pops up very first, and go like our page, and make sure on Second Shot you like their page and turn the notifications on so when y'all go live, it pops.
Absolutely.
We never even tell anybody that.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I am at JennyAnchondo.com, Jenny Anchondo on Instagram, and yes, there's a new project on there, and you only know about it if you're following along on the gram.
At Apple Zackintosh on Twitter and Instagram. Facebook.com/group/Second Shot. Come join the conversation. Thanks, guys.
Matt Stoker1 on Instagram. You can find me there. And also on the Facebook group. I'm hanging around.
At Heath Oaks, at Ignorance on Fire, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook.
LinkedIn.
Jenny loves LinkedIn.
Senior citizen.
We got LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn.
SecondShotcast@gmail.com with any questions you may have. I love you. See you next time.